Hi, welcome to Go Clyde Productions. Welcome back. We are in segment 2 of our little series, God, Creation, and Us. Today we're going to be talking about questions evolutionists cannot answer and how they discredit themselves, and then the odds against evolution. So there's a lot of material here to unpack, so I'd like to get going real quick. But first, I'll tell you the information I'm giving you today, or the questions about evolutionists cannot answer, is taken from a book that my dad wrote, The Hoodwinkers, Evolution, A Religion Disguised as Science, by Dr. John L. Waite, D.C., Ph.D. And since he was in the medical profession, and this is just one area of this book of questions, but let's go with the human body. The human body is very complicated and complex, so organized and synchronized in which all systems are interdependent upon the other. All of these systems are made of many different types of cells with innumerable functions. How could this complex, organized, and synchronized human body happen by chance, accident, natural selection, or by mutation? Especially when all the systems and the many different types of cells are interdependent upon each other. Since faith is so strongly entrenched in the religion of evolution, shouldn't they pray to Darwin for some of these unanswerable questions? Here are just a few questions I would like to ask the evolutionists to answer with absolute proof. This without the usual word salad of using the words apparently, maybe, assuming, given enough time, theory, and hypothesis. Just a few of the time-worn words and phrases that they use. For example, can they prove the following happened through the process of evolution without using those time-worn words or phrases? Let's ask the questions. Here we go. Okay. Now, if I make a mistake on some of these words, it's because I'm not a medical professional, so bear with me. Can they prove how the brain and cranial nerves came about? How did the nervous system develop? How the many muscles with their origins and insertions are able to perform so excellently and efficiently as they do? How the many joints and articulations are exactly proficient for the stress they are put under along with their use? The skeletal system with its many types of bones so efficiently engineered? How about the formation of blood cells in the ends of the long bones and the flat bones? How did the body develop osmosis and its physiological functions and actions within the body? What caused the miracle of the eye? How does the evolutionist explain the wonder of body balance and the ability to hear with the ear? How did DNA form through evolution to serve as a blueprint of the organism to be? This would include the let me get this right, epithelial tissue, serous and mucous membranes, the blood vascular system, divisions of the blood vascular system, physiology of the general circulation, tissue fluids such as lymph vascular system, and the physiology of the system, glands, secretions, enzymes, and hormones, the respiratory system, its special anatomy, histology, tissue, and physiology, the anatomy and histology, the tissue makeup of the digestive system, the physiology of digestion, absorption, metabolism of fats, carbohydrates, and proteins, the urinary system, the anatomy, physiology, and the formation and the elimination of urine, the skin and appendages, and their histology. Would the evolutionists please explain reproduction? This includes all the organs involved, their makeup, and the formation of the fetus, and all of the necessary and accessory vital organs that are required. For the evolutionists to believe that all of these well-designed systems of the human body just named happen by chance and random accidents requires an unbelievable dogmatic faith in their religion and their god Darwin. Okay, so let's list a few more. The chemical formulation of all the hormones. The formulation of all the enzymes, of which there are approximately over 1,000. Each enzyme is specific, meaning that no enzyme can do the work of another enzyme. Formulation of all the digestive juices and hydrochloric acid, plus the ability of the tissues, cells to withstand hydrochloric acid. The hydrochloric acid is formed in the parietal cells of the stomach. The formulation of mucus, the formulation of tears, the formulation of the blood clotting mechanism, formulation of catecholamines, sorry about that, that have an effect on the cardiovascular system, metabolic rate, temperature, and smooth muscle. The list could go on and on. Would the evolutionists please explain with proof, not theory, how all the histology and the formulation of all of the substances happened by random chance or accidents? Our chemists and pharmacists have a hard enough time with their formulations when you consider the side effect of medicinal drugs alone. So those are some of the questions that we have not heard answers to. And I think there's a lot of, with the body being as complex as it is, it's amazing. It is an amazing creation from a God who designed a beautiful organisms and gosh, I mean, what else can you say? Anyways, we'll go on to evolutionists discrediting themselves. So let's see. The definition of science is there must be observation, study, determination of nature or principles being studied, and with that data, reproduction in the laboratory, reproduction over and over again. Okay, so one example is Science Digest asks the question, what is wrong with traditional science journalism? It puts science on an altar as befits a noble cerebral pursuit. Scientific news is too often presented as a random collection of amazing facts that at best have little, if anything, to do with the real world, and at worst, intimidating and irrelevant. Okay, Dr. Duane Gish had interviewed on the radio Dr. Colin Patterson, senior paleontologist at the British National History Museum in London, and author of the book Evolution, to which he devoted most of his lifetime. And he said, evolution is mere speculation. He said there was no significant evidence to back it up. He acknowledged that evolution is a faith. Isaac Asimov, PhD in chemistry from Columbia University, associate professor of biochemistry at Boston University, the School of Medicine, author of 60 books, and evolutionist, makes the following statements. Science does not know how the condition of high order began, but scientists are accustomed to a lack of knowledge. Dr. Asimov admits that life cannot be explained by blind chance. How did nature itself pass this threshold when there were no enzymes to do the work and no nucleic acids to serve as blueprints? And also from Dr. Asimov, from nucleic acid molecules out of completely non-living starting materials, such molecules cannot so far be made to demonstrate the phenomena associated with life. Okay, and then Darwin admitted he could not prove a single species has change, nor prove that supposed changes were beneficial. Discontinuity in living things today is one of the most obvious defects in the evolution theory. Nowhere do we see one kind of plant or animal evolving into another. Genetics and the Origin of the Species by evolutionist Theodosius Dobzhansky. And the chief puzzle in the record of life's history on Earth is the sudden appearance, some 600 million years ago, of the most basic divisions of the plant and animal kingdoms. There is virtually no record of how these divisions came about. Thus, the first part of the entire evolutionary history is missing. It was assumed that earlier records were destroyed or had no shells or skeletons hard enough to leave a record. Yet soft plants and animals also leave their prints in the sands of time, and they too were absent. Dr. Thompson, an entomologist and evolutionist, writing in the foreword of the Darwin Centennial Edition, 1959, of The Origin of the Species, by Charles Darwin, said, in reference to the great divergence of opinion among biologists as to evolution, this divergence exists because the evidence is unsatisfactory and does not permit a certain conclusion. And let's see, from Genetics and the Origin of Species, again, Theodosius Dobzhansky, the majority of mutations produce deteriorations of the viability, hereditary disease, and monstrosities. Such changes, it would seem, can hardly serve as building blocks for evolution. Okay, and let's see, coincidence? Here, these scientists don't think so. Here's what some scientists are saying about the structure of the universe. It's quite easy to understand why so many scientists have changed their minds in the past 30 years, agreeing that the universe cannot reasonably be explained as cosmic accident. Evidence for an intelligent designer becomes more compelling the more we understand about our carefully crafted habitat. That's Walter Bradley, co-author of The Mystery of Life's Origin. And it is hard to resist the impression that the present structure of the universe, apparently so sensitive to minor alterations in numbers, has been rather carefully thought out. The seemingly miraculous concurrence of these numerical values must remain the most compelling evidence for cosmic design. That's Paul Davies, former professor of theoretical physics at Cambridge University. The fine-tuning of the universe provides prima facie evidence of deistic design. Edward Harrison, cosmologist. A common sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super intellect has monkeyed with physics as well as with chemistry and biology, and that there are no blind forces worth speaking about in nature. The late Sir Fred Hoyle, one of the world's most prominent astronomers. Put together with ingenuity, so astonishing that I cannot accept it merely as brute fact. I cannot believe that our existence in this universe is a mere quirk of fate, an accident of history, an incidental blip in the great cosmic drama. That's Paul Davies again, physicist. A common sense and satisfying interpretation of our world suggests the designing hand of a super intelligence. Owen Gingerich, Harvard astronomy professor and senior astronomer with the Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory. All righty. And let's see. Oh, this is a good one. When scientists testify for hire, their scientific objectivity is sometimes invoked more for appearance than for substance when science moves into the commercial world. That's from Science Magazine. And then when New Scientist magazine asked scientists in a questionnaire whether they knew of cases of intentional bias, faking of results to make experiments appear well-conceived and important, 90% of 200 replies reported the knowledge of such cases. What are the odds against evolution? Well, here's just a couple of them. What are the odds against overall evolution coming up with people? Dr. Howard F. Blum, professor of biology at Princeton University, says the odds are 1 in quintillion. That is 1 followed by 18 zeros. Former evolutionist Sir Fred Hoyle, internationally recognized astronomer and mathematician, along with British scientist Chandra Wickramasinghe, stated, the odds against evolution is 1 followed by 40,000 zeros. Sir Fred Hoyle went on to say that nobody seems to call evolution what it is, a fraud. The two scientists went on to say, we receive life with the fundamental biochemical problems already solved. They attribute its source to an intelligence whose purpose is to spread life in an elegant way. The scientists still cling, this is what they say, most scientists still cling to Darwinism because of its grip on the educational system and out of fear that any retreat would open the floodgates to irrationalism. What's more irrational than evolution? Okay, well, that does it for today. Next time we'll come back and we'll talk about science, empirical truth. We'll talk about cause and effect, and we will also wrap it up with how life couldn't happen the way evolutionists explain it. Thanks so much for being with us today. God bless you. We'll see you soon on part 3 or segment 3 of God, Creation, and Us.